Hello, hello, and Merry Christmas to you. I'm Jessica Kringle. Of course, you know me as Mrs. Claus. And we have been counting down all of the days to today with a different cooking item from my family recipe box each and every day. And I have had so much fun cooking these recipes and sharing them all with you. So for the last time this year, we get to go to our Advent calendar and find out what we've got for the 25th. Oh, fun. Now, we are going to make a kind of sugar cookie, but there's a little twist on this one. These have eggnog in them to give them just a little bit more flavor and just to make it a little bit more fun and festive for you. So, you know the drill. Let me wash my hands and get out the ingredients for you. Now, if you would like to follow along, you can find this recipe at www.crafterscountdown.com, and you can find a downloadable PDF of all of our little recipe cards that we've used in our Advent calendar this year. So, give me just a minute and I'll be right back with you. All right, I have washed my hands just like every other time this month and gotten out our ingredients together. Now, what I've placed in the bowl here is the sugar, and to this we're going to add our butter and our egg. Here's one of these. And then, as always, our egg to add here. Now, the recipe calls for double this. I'm going ahead and halving the recipe so that we don't have quite as much. You know, Santa ate so many cookies last night on his ride because most of you gave him milk and cookies. He doesn't need too many more sweets today, so we're going to make a small one. Share it with the elves mostly. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cream this, mix it well. Now we're going to add our vanilla and our eggnog. I thought it would be fun to make some eggnog cookies, so it's just a little bit different than the traditional sugar cookies that we're used to making when we do cookies with cookie cutters and that kind of thing. So I thought we would just try something a little bit different. Right, and our eggnog. Give it a little extra flavor and a little extra creaminess, right? And turn that on just to stir it. In a separate bowl, we're mixing our dry ingredients. So I have our flour in here, and to that I'm going to add the baking powder and our nutmeg. I love nutmeg with my eggnog. It's so good. It's so yummy. Now we're going to add our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients and mix those together well. I'm going to place a plate on top of here and go ahead and set this in the refrigerator for 1 hour so that it gets a little bit harder and not quite so sticky. So we'll be back in an hour. While our dough is in the refrigerator getting cold for us so we can roll it out nice and well, there's a couple of other things that we can do and some prep work. So I thought we could, first of all, take out the fruit cake that we made on December 1st. Were you with me for that one? We made a fruit cake and then we wrapped it so that it could mature. And then we also took it out halfway through the month and we re-soaked it. My dad did it once a week, I think, but didn't want it quite that strong. It's like a Christmas gift, but you already know what it is. Ooh, I can smell it this time. Last time it didn't smell as much, so must have gotten nice and soaked. So we had wrapped this in foil, and then we also wrapped it in a cheesecloth that we had soaked in a whiskey. Again, not completely necessary. Some families do and some don't, and that is okay. All right, yummy. Still a little bit damp. Now, it would also be wonderful to save this for New Year. You've got a couple of options there. And then, I don't know if you caught it, but I did teach you how to paint these plates yourself also. So this is the plate we did in that video. All right, let's get a knife and cut this. This is so full of fruit and nuts. I know it's a tradition and people make jokes about re-gifting them. I had a couple of people tell me that they would love to get this as part of their Christmas gift. Let's have a little taste and see how it is. That is so good. All right, let me set this aside and I'll show you some of the other prep work we can do. All right, we need to make some royal icing to decorate our cookies. So first we need the sifted confectioner's sugar. So I've shown you before, this is a sifter. It's very old. So for me, it's a little bit easier to rock the sifter back and forth than to turn it around in circles, because when I was turning it around in circles, it flipped out everywhere. One of the things that makes royal icing what it is and so wonderfully smooth and makes it a little bit hard, it stays crunchy, is if you add a little bit of cream of tartar. The other ingredient that makes it royal icing the way that it is, kind of harden and so easy for decorating, is we're going to add an egg white. So we've got our handy egg separator. I've shown you this before, and I've also told you before that some people can do it in the eggshell and that there are different kinds of these separators. And we will set this aside for another recipe, a custard or something, and then of course this goes in the compost. And we are going to beat our egg white until it's stiff. So I'm going to go ahead and use the machine for this, but of course you can use a hand mixer, you can use your knuckles if you are up for that. We want it to form peaks in the bowl. Now we're going to slowly add our confectioner's sugar and cream of tartar mix to the egg and whip that up really well. You want to work rather quickly getting this into your covered icing bag because as it airs, it will harden and it does turn quite hard. And then in working with an icing bag, what we're going to do is take the plastic part and press it into the bag, put it in there as far as we can, and then we're going to snip off the end. We're going to place this on the end here and then screw this on to tighten it and hold it in place. And then you fold the bag over your hand as best as you can. Open it up like this, and then using your spatula, you're going to scoop the icing into the bag. Press it down in there. And you want to only use about half a cup of icing at a time. And so this recipe makes about half a cup, it said. Okay, and then you unfold the bag. You give it a squeeze and a twist to help get the icing down into the bottom of the bag and flowing. And then we're going to make sure that we pinch this up really tight so that it's good to go when our cookies come out of the oven. I'm going to go ahead and put this into a container so that it doesn't get any air to it. We're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees for this one. All right, and then we are going to roll these out and use some cookie cutters. Now, I got this a very long time ago. I was just a young lady. And this is a Festivitries bake set, it's called. And what you have are a collection of different sized stars. And then you stack them with some frosting and decoration and you create a Christmas tree. So I thought it would be super fun if we did that. We're going to spread a little flour on our mat here so that it doesn't stick, and then a little bit on a rolling pin. Not too much. Scooch that aside. Something else I've done in preparation for getting our cookies ready is, do you remember when we made those crystal cut candies? Well, I set some aside, especially the little broken pieces that didn't quite make it out of the pan in proper shape. And I got some other little red candies, and I borrowed Santa's hammer again, but I made sure I returned it on time this time. So these are crushed, and we're going to make some stained glass cookies too, in addition to the ones for our cookie tree. So our dough is nice and cold, and thus a little bit less sticky. And so we're going to roll this out to 1/8 of an inch thick. And this isn't all the dough. I took half of it out of the bowl there so that you roll it out a little at a time. You can see the nutmeg in there. Usually sugar cookies are just a plain color, but this one's got its brown specks in it. Kind of yummy, huh? And then we do not need to grease our cookie sheets. And I'm going to start with the largest one. And straight down and up. Now you can make your trees where you've got them several high. You can make it just one of each size high. Totally up to you how big you want it. Again, since Santa ate so many cookies last night, visiting all of you and you guys leaving them out for him, I'm only going to make a small one. And the elves have been eating all of my treats that I've been making. Whoops, that one's stuck in there. That's okay. We will gently press that out and put it on our cookie tray. And a little one for the top. All right, and then when you make stained glass cookies, I'm going to take this medium-sized one and cut out the cookie. And then I'm going to take one of the small ones and cut the center out of it so that it has a small hole. And then you simply take some of your crushed candy and fill the little hole, and this will melt in the oven and fill it so that it looks like a pretty little stained glass. Let's go ahead and do another one of those. Little star in the center. These are sticking in the little one. I'll have a lot of little stars. That'll be fun. And then, since this one didn't stick, I'm going to use my little spatula here. Carefully lift up the cookie and transfer it to my baking sheet. It's got that little star hole in the center. And this one I will use some of the red. Be so fun to show you what these look like when they come out of the oven. These are just a little red cherry flavored hard candy. They were square before I pounded on them. And how I pounded on them is I put them into a plastic bag, little zippy bag, and then I wrapped a towel around that. Then I went to a safe place, which was our fireplace hearth, where it's nice and brick on the ground. And I very gently hit the towel around the outside of the bag. That way the bag doesn't puncture and stuff doesn't go everywhere. And then I need to get our cookie tree. Get these peeled up from here. Peel away the extra dough, roll it out, and use it to make more yummy cookies. We may end up with more than one of these cookie trees after all, huh? Because these are quite a bit of the dough here. These kind of look like fun little starfish, don't they? I have in the past added green food coloring directly to the dough, and it doesn't make it a wonderful green color, especially if it starts to turn, you're supposed to cook them until they turn just a little bit brown around the edges. And so there is a way to make an icing that is egg whites, and it's a paint. You paint it on with egg whites and food coloring, and that will also get you some green on top, so you've got the color. I was going to just sprinkle a little bit of the green sugar on the top of each of these. And you don't have to get it too close to the center. You can focus on putting it on the outside edges. Press this sugar into these. Just a little bit so that they don't fly off until you can get it in the oven. And now we're going to bake these for 8 to 10 minutes. I went ahead and pulled these from the oven and put them on the cooling rack, and went ahead and made some more also so that I used up all the dough and got to get things cleaned up. So here is another one of the plates that we made when we were doing some painting on these glass plates. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, you can find that video on the Crafters Countdown YouTube channel. But just for fun, we're going to go ahead and put a decorative doily on top of there. And then I went ahead and made 2 of each size of the cookie. Now, they do get a little bit brown on the edges there. One of the tips that I have for you is that you want to possibly cook the smaller ones because they will cook faster and get a little bit darker. You may want to cook the smaller ones on a different tray all at once and the larger ones all at once instead of putting everything together. Another thing to keep in mind, and I did this, is to keep the smaller cookies closest to the door and put the bigger cookies in the back of the cookie tray when you slide it in, so that they're in the heat, and these are a little bit closer to where the air is, especially if you're opening the door to check it a little bit, it'll cool them off. So remember, we made our icing, and so what we're going to do is squeeze. Just put a little bit on the bottom pieces tips there. And then we'll put a little circle in the middle, just so that it's like glue. They sort of glue to each other. I'm going to put that one on the bottom, and then I'm going to take the one of the same size and turn it sideways so that they're not lined up perfectly, but they're opposite. And then put a little bit of drip on the edges here, trying to pull them out so they look like icicles hanging down. And then a little bit in the center. And then you go to the next size up and you place that again so that the points go out in different directions. Go ahead and finish this and I'll be right back with you. And here we have our little Christmas tree. To create the little star, I took instead of putting the two of the smallest cookies on top, I went ahead and broke one in half, and I ate the half. I did. And then I put frosting all over the half that I saved, and then dipped it into some other decoration. We could have certainly colored it yellow or put some yellow sugar on there if we wanted a gold star on top. I just wanted it a little more festive. So that's how I created the star, and then I used frosting to sort of glue it on sideways there. I wanted to show you some of the stained glass cookies that I made. There's a red one, and here's a green one, and I put a little bit too much. This is what happens if you put too much and it bubbles over in the oven. Remember, there are no mistakes. There are only creative opportunities. So I can take my piping bag and pipe around the edge of this, and it'll make it look just fine. But I wanted to play around. You know, I'm an experimenter in the kitchen, and so I made one of the medium large cookies and cut it out and then filled it with the crushed candy, and then took the smallest star and placed it in the center there, and I think that made a super fun effect. The store-bought candy is brighter. If you know that you're going to do this, you might want to add a little bit more coloring to your crystal cut candies that you make, because it didn't hold the color very well when I recooked it. And then just with the leftover dough that I had, I was playing around. You remember the cookie cutters that I was playing around with for the mint surprise cookies? So I went ahead and got out my scalloped cookie cutter again, and then I put some stars in the center of them and made a couple more stained glass cookies. Well, that's it, not just for today, but for this year's countdown. We are all done with my family's recipe box and cooking and counting down to the 25th. I hope that you're having a very, very Merry Christmas and that you're surrounded by love and happiness, not just today, but always, of course, all days. May you have a really wonderful New Year, and I do hope that you'll look for me next year to find out what kind of countdown we do with our Advent calendars next year. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye-bye.